3 months had passed since that historic day in the council chambers. The galaxy was still adjusting to the changes, but progress was undeniable. Hana stood at the window of her new office, watching ships come and go from the station below. The Interspecies Communication Institute occupied an entire wing of the council station now, bustling with researchers from dozens of species. Behind her, Biol was sprawled across a specially made resting platform. The giant Night Stalker took up most of the room, but Hana would not have it any other way. He had refused to leave her side since that first day, and she had given up trying to convince him otherwise. Where she went, he followed. It had made for some interesting diplomatic situations. "Dr. Park, the delegation from Kepler 442 has arrived," her assistant announced over the communication system. The assistant was a young avian named Kree, who had initially been terrified of Biol but now regularly brought him treats. "Send them in," Hana replied. Turning from the window, 3 aliens entered cautiously. They were representatives from a colony world that had lost 20% of its population to Night Stalker attacks over the past decade. They had every reason to hate these creatures, yet here they were, seeking help instead of revenge. Biol lifted his head as they entered, his glowing eyes assessing the newcomers. Hana rested a hand on his shoulder and he relaxed immediately. The visitors noticed this exchange and seemed slightly less terrified. "Thank you for seeing us," the leader said. This one was tall and thin, with forearms and skin that changed colors with emotion. Currently, it was a nervous yellow. "We have heard about your work here. About what you did, we want to try." "Try what?" Hana asked gently, gesturing for them to sit. "To make peace. There is a pack of Night Stalkers near our main settlement. We have been fighting them for years. Many have died on both sides. But after seeing the recordings of you with..." The alien gestured nervously at Biol. "With him, we wondered if there might be another way." Hana felt a surge of hope. This was the 4th colony to reach out this month. Word was spreading that alternatives to violence existed. "Tell me about these attacks," she said. "When do they happen? How do they start?" The aliens described a familiar pattern. Night Stalkers would approach the colony, usually at night. Security forces would see them and immediately open fire. The creatures would attack in response, causing damage and casualties before fleeing. The cycle had repeated for years. "Have you ever tried not shooting first?" Hana asked. The 3 visitors looked at each other. "Not shoot them? They are Night Stalkers. They are death. They are living beings," Hana corrected. "Living beings who have learned that your colony means violence and pain. What if we taught them something different?" She pulled up a holographic display showing data from her recent field studies. "I have visited 3 Night Stalker territories so far. In each case, when approached correctly, the creatures showed no aggression. They are curious, intelligent, and social. They form strong family bonds. They communicate through body language, scent, and those sounds they make." Biol demonstrated by making a soft chirping sound. The visitors jumped, but the creature simply yawned and went back to resting. "I can come to your colony," Hana offered. "I can try to establish communication with the pack there. It might work. It might not. But it has to be better than endless fighting." The leader's color shifted to a hopeful green. "You would do this? Come to our world and risk your life." "That is what I do," Hana said simply. "Besides, I will not be alone. Biol comes with me everywhere. And if there is one thing that impresses other Night Stalkers, it is seeing one of their own kind peaceful and happy with aliens." After the delegation left, full of new hope, Hana returned to her work. The Institute was coordinating dozens of research projects simultaneously. Teams were studying Night Stalker biology, psychology, and social structures. Others were developing protocols for peaceful first contact. Some were even working on translation devices, hoping to find ways to communicate more directly. Ambassador Taiyang visited in the afternoon, bringing news from the council. He looked tired but satisfied. "The council voted today," he announced. "They are officially removing Night Stalkers from the shoot-on-sight list. All colonies must now attempt peaceful contact before using lethal force." Some members were unhappy about it, but they could not argue with the results. "What results?" Hana asked, though she suspected she knew. 0 Night Stalker attacks in the 3 territories where you established contact. 15 successful peaceful encounters. And look at this. He pulled up a video on his datapad. The recording showed a small colony on a desert world. A Night Stalker approached the settlement at night, just as the colony representatives had described. But instead of firing, the guards stayed back and called for their newly trained contact specialist. The specialist, using techniques Hana had taught, approached the creature calmly. Within minutes, the Night Stalker was accepting food offerings and allowing itself to be scanned for injuries. That colony was losing people every month, Taeyang said. Now they are talking about establishing a permanent research post to study the local pack. All because someone tried understanding instead of shooting. Hana felt tears in her eyes. This was what she had hoped for. Real change spreading across the galaxy. Junho arrived in the evening, now serving as head of security for the entire institute. His job had changed dramatically. Instead of defending against Night Stalkers, he was now training guards from across the galaxy in nonviolent response techniques. "You will not believe what happened today," he said, shaking his head in amusement. "Remember those insectoid warriors from the Mantis sector? The ones who thought your methods were weak? The ones who said real warriors do not pet their enemies?" Hana remembered. What about them? 3 of them applied to join the institute as students. They want to learn the human way, as they called it. Said their government is tired of losing soldiers to Night Stalker attacks and wants better options. He sat down heavily in a chair, careful not to disturb Biol's tail, which was now draped across part of the room. "I never thought I would spend my military career teaching people how to make friends with predators. But I have to admit it feels better than teaching them how to kill." As night fell on the station, Hana prepared to leave for the colony world of Kepler 442. It would be her 4th field mission, and possibly the most dangerous. The Night Stalker pack there was large and had been fighting with colonists for a decade. They would not trust easily, but she had to try. Biol seemed to sense her concern. He stood up and nuzzled against her, making comforting sounds. Over the past 3 months, they had developed a deep bond. She could read his moods, and he understood her intentions. It was not quite language, but it was communication that transcended species. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked him. He chirped happily in response. A young avian intern poked her head into the office. It was Kree's little sister, recently arrived to study at the institute. She was small, barely adult by her species standards, and still nervous around large predators. "Dr. Park, I wanted to ask, before you leave." The young avian hesitated, her feathers ruffling with nervousness. Would it be okay if I... She could not finish the sentence. Hana smiled, understanding immediately. "You want to pet Biol?" The avian nodded eagerly, her fear warring with curiosity. "Come here," Hana said gently. "I will show you how." She guided the young alien's wing to the spot under Biol's jaw. The Night Stalker rumbled happily at the attention, his eyes half closing in contentment. The avian's fear melted away, replaced by wonder. "He is so warm," she whispered. "And that sound he makes?" "It is beautiful." "He is purring," Hana explained. "It means he is happy and feels safe." The young avian looked up at Hana with shining eyes. "I used to have nightmares about Night Stalkers. We all did. We were taught they were monsters that would eat us. But he is not a monster at all, is he?" "No," Hana said softly. "He is just different from us. That is not the same thing as being a monster." After the intern left, glowing with excitement about the story she would tell her family, Hana began her final preparations. Taeyang and Junho insisted on coming with her to Kepler 442, despite the risks. They had become a team, the 3 humans and their Night Stalker companion, changing the galaxy one encounter at a time. As they boarded the shuttle for the journey, Hana looked back at the institute. Researchers from dozens of species worked there now, all dedicated to understanding rather than fighting. The building was a symbol of what could be achieved when beings chose cooperation over conflict. "What are you thinking?" Taeyang asked. "I am thinking about how we got here," Hana replied. 3 months ago, I was terrified in that council chamber. I thought we might all die. Now look at what we have built." "You built it," Junho corrected. "We just followed your lead." "No," Hana shook her head. "We built it together. You believed in me when I made that crazy decision to approach Biol. The council chose to support us instead of condemning us. Every species that decided to try something new instead of repeating old patterns." "We all built this?" Biol bumped his head against her shoulder, nearly knocking her over. She laughed and scratched his ears. "What do you think?" she asked the great predator. "Ready to show another pack that peace is possible?" The hour passed quickly. Hana stayed with Biol the entire time, monitoring his condition and making sure he remained calm. The great creature seemed content to sleep, occasionally opening one glowing eye to check that she was still there before drifting off again. Junio had relaxed enough to sit down, though his weapon remained within easy reach. Taeyang spent the time answering urgent messages from Earth's government, trying to explain what had happened in ways that made sense. When the council reconvened, the chamber had been reorganized. The platform where the humans had originally stood was gone, replaced by a more comfortable seating area on the main floor. Bial had been moved, still sleeping, to a corner where soft materials created a makeshift bed. Anna sat near him, unwilling to leave her patient. Council Speaker Vorin called the session to order. The 12 members looked different now. Their earlier confidence had been replaced by something more thoughtful, more uncertain. What they had witnessed challenged thousands of years of accepted knowledge. "We have completed our consultations," Vorin announced. "What happened today raises questions that affect the entire galaxy. Before we address humanity's membership, we must understand exactly what we saw. Dr. Park, would you explain your actions in detail?" Hana stood, though she kept one hand resting on Biol's side. The creature stirred slightly at her movement but settled again when she remained close. "The explanation is simple," she began. "Night Stalkers are not monsters. They are living beings with intelligence, emotions, and social needs. They have been treated as enemies for so long that nobody bothered to learn anything about them, except how to kill them. They have destroyed colonies," one council member protested. This one looked like a massive insect with crystalline wings. "They have killed thousands. How can you claim they are not dangerous?" "I did not say they are not dangerous," Hana corrected. "I said they are not monsters. There is a difference. A lion is dangerous. A bear is dangerous. But they are not evil. They are animals acting according to their nature. The same is true for Night Stalkers." She gestured to the sleeping Biol. "When I scanned him earlier, I detected stress hormones at extremely high levels. Chemical signs of fear and pain. He had been imprisoned, sedated, studied like a specimen rather than a being. When he escaped, he was disoriented and terrified. The first thing that happened was everyone attacking him. Of course he fought back." "You were saying we caused the violence?" another member asked. "I am saying fear creates violence," Hana replied carefully. "When Biel saw me, he expected another attack. But I did not attack. I did not run. I approached him calmly and showed him I was not a threat. Once he understood that, his behavior changed completely." Vorin floated forward, its transparent body pulsing with thought. "In all recorded encounters with Night Stalkers, aggression has occurred within seconds. We assumed this was their nature. Are you suggesting we were wrong about that?" "Yes," Hana said simply. "You were wrong. Night Stalkers are predators, but predators are not mindless killers. They hunt for food and defend themselves from threats. Everything else is learned behavior. If every encounter starts with violence, they learn to expect violence. It becomes a cycle that never breaks." She pulled out her data pad and displayed some readings. "Look at Biol's current state compared to when he first emerged. His heart rate has dropped by 40%. His body temperature is normal. His brain activity shows patterns consistent with contentment and trust. These are not the readings of a killing machine. These are the readings of an intelligent being who has finally found safety." The council members leaned forward to study the data. Murmurs of surprise and confusion rippled through the chamber. The evidence was clear and undeniable. Ambassador Taeyang stood to address the council. "Honorable members, I want to share something about Earth's history. Thousands of years ago, humans encountered wolves. These were dangerous predators that hunted in packs and killed our people. We had every reason to fear them, to hunt them to extinction." He paused for effect. "But we did not. Some humans tried to understand the wolves instead. They learned to communicate with them, to earn their trust. Over time, wolves became dogs. They became our companions, our helpers, our friends. Today, there are more dogs on Earth than wolves ever existed. They live in our homes, protect our children, work alongside us, all because someone chose understanding over fear." "You are not suggesting we domesticate Night Stalkers," one council member said incredulously. "No," Taeyang replied. "I am suggesting we try to understand them, to communicate with them, to find ways to coexist rather than fight. Dr. Park proved it is possible in less than an hour. Imagine what could be achieved with time, patience, and proper study." Junho spoke up for the first time. "I am a soldier. My job is to identify and eliminate threats. When I saw that Night Stalker charge toward us, I was certain we would die. I fired my weapon, ready to sacrifice myself to buy time for others to escape." He looked at Biol. now snoring softly in his corner. But Dr. Park saw something I did not. She saw past the fear. I'm trained to fight threats, but she is trained to understand life. Maybe that is what the galaxy needs more of. Understanding instead of fighting. The council fell silent, considering his words. Finally, a member who had not spoken before rose. This one was made of living crystal, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. I am Elder Kira of the Crystalline Collective, it said in a voice like breaking glass. My species has existed for 50,000 years. We pride ourselves on our wisdom and knowledge. Yet today a young human has shown us how little we truly know. The crystal being turned to face Hana directly. Dr. Park, what would you need to properly study Night Stalkers? To learn how to communicate with them as you did today? Hana had not expected the question. She thought quickly. I would need access to Night Stalker habitats. Permission to observe them in natural conditions. Resources to study their biology, psychology, and social structures. And most importantly, I would need them to be protected from harm while we learn. A research facility, Vorin mused, dedicated to understanding rather than containing. It has never been done before. Many things have never been done before, Taeyang said quietly. Until they are. The council members conferred among themselves again. This time the conversation seemed more positive. Several were gesturing toward Biol, who chose that moment to wake up and yawn hugely, showing all 3 rows of teeth. Hana immediately went to his side, and the creature nuzzled against her hand like a dog greeting its owner. The sight of the galaxy's deadliest predator acting like a pet cat seemed to decide matters. We have reached a consensus, Vorin announced. The Galactic Council votes to grant humanity provisional membership status. You will have access to our resources and knowledge. You will be allowed to establish embassies and participate in council sessions. Taeyang's face lit up. But Vorin was not finished. Additionally, we vote to establish the Interspecies Communication Institute. Dr. Hana Park will serve as its director. Its purpose will be to study Night Stalkers and other misunderstood species, with the goal of finding peaceful coexistence. This facility will be funded by the council and given full support. Hana's mouth dropped open in shock. Director? But I am just a researcher. You are the person who made peace with a Night Stalker, Elder Kira said. You are exactly what we need. There are conditions, another member added.
Humanity must share your techniques for understanding predators.
Your people must help train others in these methods, and you must prove that what happened today was not simply luck. It was not luck, Hana said firmly. It was science, patience, and respect. I can teach others. I can show you that Night Stalkers are not our enemies. They are just misunderstood. Biol chose that moment to stand up and stretch, his massive body flowing like water. Every alien in the chamber tensed instinctively, but the creature simply walked over to Hana and sat down beside her, his tail curling around her protectively. We accept your conditions, Taeyang said formally. Humanity is honored to join the Galactic Council and to help bridge the gap between species. Then it is decided, Vorin declared. Welcome to the galaxy, humans. We look forward to learning from you as much as teaching you. The formal session ended, but the real work was just beginning. As the council members dispersed, many approached Hana with questions about Biol. They kept a respectful distance, but their curiosity was clear. The great predator watched them all but showed no aggression as long as Hana remained calm. Junho shook his head in amazement. When we left Earth, I thought the hardest part would be learning alien politics. I never imagined we would end up adopting the galaxy's most dangerous creature. We did not adopt him, Hana protested. I am just providing medical care and... Biol bumped his head against her shoulder hard enough to make her stumble. The message was clear. She might not think she had adopted him, but he had definitely adopted her. Taeyang laughed, the tension of the day finally breaking. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. Our first official act, making friends with monsters. Hana scratched Biol under his jaw, earning another happy purr. Not monsters, she corrected softly. Just friends we have not understood yet. The purring sound continued to fill the council chamber. It was a deep rumbling noise that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The Night Stalker had settled into a more relaxed position, its massive body lowering until it was almost lying down. Hana kept her hand moving, scratching gently under its jaw and around what might have been ears. How is this possible? Someone whispered from the shadows. Nobody answered because nobody knew. Hana was working on pure instinct now, combined with years of experience handling dangerous earth animals. She slowly moved her position, getting closer to the creature's injured side. The Night Stalker watched her but did not protest. It seemed content to let her move around it as long as she kept up that gentle scratching. "I need my medical kit," Hana called out without taking her eyes off the creature, the one with the blue stripe. "It's in the shuttle." For a moment, nobody moved. Then Junho shook himself out of his shock and started backing toward the exit. He kept his eyes on the Night Stalker the entire time, ready to react if it showed any aggression. But the creature barely noticed him. All its attention was focused on Hana. Ambassador Taeyang had recovered his diplomatic composure, though his face was still pale. He walked slowly toward the viewing gallery where most of the council members had gathered. They watched him approach with expressions that ranged from amazement to suspicion. "Council Speaker Vorin," Taeyang said formally, "I believe we need to discuss what just happened." Vorin had recovered somewhat, though its glow was still weaker than before. "That human should be dead. Every being in this galaxy knows that Night Stalkers cannot be reasoned with. They are pure death. Yet the being's voice trailed off, unable to finish the thought. "She understands predators," Taeyang explained. "On Earth we have many dangerous animals. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, crocodiles. Creatures that can and do kill humans regularly. But we learn to live with them. More than that, we learn to communicate with them." "Communicate?" Another council member spoke up. This one looked like a collection of floating rocks held together by energy fields. "You cannot communicate with a Night Stalker. They have no language. They only kill. Have you tried?" Taeyang asked simply.
Have any of you actually tried to communicate with them?
Or did you just assume they were monsters and treat them as such? The question hung in the air unanswered. Below, Hana had moved to examine the injured limb. She touched it carefully, feeling along the joints and muscles. The Night Stalker flinched slightly but did not pull away or show aggression. Junho returned with the medical kit. He approached carefully, still ready to shoot if needed, and handed it to Hana. She opened it one-handed, the other hand still resting on the creature's side in a comforting gesture. "This is going to hurt a little," she warned, speaking to the Night Stalker as if it could understand. "But I'm trying to help." She pulled out a spray bottle filled with disinfectant. On Earth, it worked on most carbon-based life forms. She hoped it would work here too. Spraying a small amount on the damaged scales, she watched for a reaction. The Night Stalker tensed but held still, its eyes focused on her face as if trying to read her intentions. She met its gaze calmly and continued working. Slowly, carefully, she cleaned the wounds and applied healing gel to the worst areas. The creature's breathing deepened. The purring sound became quieter but more consistent. It was clearly relaxing under her care, trusting her in a way that should have been impossible. "Incredible," Vorin breathed. "In 3,000 years of life, I have never seen anything like this." Taeyang seized the opportunity. "This is what humanity can offer the galaxy. Not just our technology or our resources, but our perspective. We see things differently because we evolved differently. On Earth, we are not the strongest or fastest or most deadly creatures. We survived by learning to cooperate, to communicate, to understand others." He gestured toward Hana and the Night Stalker. "She is not fearless. She is terrified, but she understands that fear does not have to lead to violence. Sometimes fear can be overcome with patience and compassion." More council members emerged from hiding. They gathered in the viewing gallery, watching the scene below with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. Some were taking recordings. Others were frantically sending messages to their homeworlds. This moment was already becoming history. Hana finished treating the obvious wounds and sat back on her heels. The Night Stalker lifted its head and looked at her. Then, in a gesture that made everyone watching gasp, it leaned forward and gently bumped its massive head against her shoulder. She laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. "You're welcome," she said, reaching up to scratch behind what she had decided were definitely ears. The creature made a happy rumbling sound and bumped her again, this time almost knocking her over. "It's playing," Junho said in amazement. "That thing is actually playing with her." "Not it," Hana called up. "Him or her. This is an intelligent being, not a thing." She looked at the creature thoughtfully. "I'm going to call you Biol. It means star in my language." "Because of your eyes." The Night Stalker, now named Biol, responded by curling its body around her in a protective circle. It was a pose that big Earth cats often took when they felt safe and content. Hana found herself sitting in the middle of a living fortress made of scales and muscle and claws. "Dr. Park?" Vorin called down. "Can you tell us what you did? How did you know the creature would not kill you?" Hana thought for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I did not know. But I saw the signs. Injured animals are usually defensive, not offensive. They attack because they are scared and in pain, not because they are evil." Bial here was hurt and confused. Everything in this chamber attacked him first. He was just defending himself. She ran her hand along Bial's scales. All predators have body language, ways of communicating their intentions. On Earth, we have learned to read these signals in everything from dogs to dolphins to dinosaurs. Well, not real dinosaurs, but you understand. The language is not words. It is posture, sound, scent, movement. I simply spoke to Bial in a language he could understand. "And what did you say?" Another council member asked. "I said that I was not a threat, that I understood he was scared, that I wanted to help, not hurt. And I think—" She paused, looking into Bial's glowing eyes. "I think he understood." Bial made a soft chirping sound and rested his head on the floor next to her, completely relaxed. The deadly predator looked almost peaceful now, like a giant pet sleeping in the sun. Ambassador Taeyang turned to face the council fully. "Honorable members, you have seen something today that you thought was impossible. My colleague has done what no being in your galaxy has done before. She has made peace with a Night Stalker through understanding and compassion." He let that sink in before continuing. "Now I ask you to consider this. If humanity can bridge the gap between our species and your most feared predator in mere minutes, what else might we achieve together? What other impossibilities might become possible if we work with you, not as servants or conquerors, but as partners?" The council members looked at each other. Unspoken conversations passed between them in ways humans did not fully understand. Finally, Vorin stepped forward. "Dr. Park, would you say that the Night Stalker is now safe?" Hana looked at Bial, who was now definitely asleep, his breathing deep and regular. "As safe as any large predator can be. He is calm and comfortable. But he is still a living being with instincts and needs. Respect him, treat him well, and yes, I believe he is safe." "Then we have much to discuss," Vorin said. "The council will reconvene in 1 hour. We must decide not only on humanity's membership, but on our entire understanding of Night Stalkers. This day has challenged everything we thought we knew." As the council members dispersed to consult with their governments and advisors, Hana remained sitting next to Bial. Junho stood guard nearby, still not entirely comfortable but no longer terrified. Taeyang came down to join them, shaking his head in amazement. "You realize you just changed galactic history," he said to Hana. She smiled tiredly. "I just treated an injured animal. That is what I do." Bial's tail, which none of them had noticed before, curled around her protectively. Even in sleep, the great predator was watching over his new friend. The galaxy would never be the same. The creature moved across the council chamber floor with terrible grace. Each step was silent despite its massive size. Its 6 limbs carried it forward in a way that looked wrong, like watching a video played backwards. The dying star glow of its eyes never left the 3 humans, Night Stalker, someone whispered. The word spread through the remaining aliens like poison. Those who had not already fled began backing away faster. Even the armed guards retreated, their weapons hanging uselessly at their sides. Junho positioned himself between the creature and Ambassador Taeyang. His weapon was raised and ready, though his hands shook slightly. He had faced many dangers in his life, but this thing made every instinct in his body scream at him to run. He stayed anyway. That was his job. "What is that thing?" Taeyang demanded. He was trying to help a wounded council member reach safety, ignoring his own danger. The alien he was helping was the transparent one, Vorin, who had welcomed them earlier. Its glowing body was flickering weakly. "The apex predator," Vorin managed to say between pained gasps. "They have destroyed colonies, driven species to extinction. It should not be awake. It should not be here." Hana's mind was working rapidly despite her fear. She had studied thousands of predator species on Earth. She knew how they moved, how they hunted, how they killed. This creature was displaying classic hunting behavior, but something about it seemed off to her trained eye. The Night Stalker stopped about 20 feet away from their platform. It rose up on its hind legs, making itself look even larger and more terrifying. Its mouth opened, revealing those 3 rows of crystalline teeth. A sound came from deep in its chest, a vibration so low it made the floor shake. Then it charged. The creature moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. It crossed the distance in seconds, claws extended, jaws open wide. Junyo fired his weapon 3 times. The energy bolts hit the creature's chest and did nothing, not even a mark on those black scales. At the last possible moment, the Night Stalker changed direction. Instead of attacking, it leaped over them and landed behind the platform. It spun around, cutting off their escape route. Then it settled into a crouch, watching them with those intelligent, glowing eyes. "It's playing with us," Junho said quietly, like a cat with mice, but Hana was not so sure. She had dealt with aggressive animals her entire career. She had studied everything from tigers to bears to the great white sharks that prowled Earth's oceans. She knew the difference between a predator hunting for food and one acting out of fear or confusion. "Look at its movements," she said softly. "Really look." Taeyang and Junho glanced at her like she was crazy. They were about to be eaten by the galaxy's deadliest predator, and she wanted them to study it.
Its scales, Hana continued, her voice steadier now.
"See that patch on its left side? They're damaged, broken, and watch how it moves its front right limb. It's favoring it. That limb is injured," she was right. Now that they looked closer, the creature's movements showed signs of pain. It kept shifting its weight away from that one limb. The damaged scales formed a pattern that looked almost like electrical burns. The containment field, Hana realized. They've been keeping it prisoner, sedated. Those burns are from the energy fields. It just woke up in a strange place, surrounded by beings that immediately attacked it. "It's not hunting. It's terrified." "Terrified?" Junyo repeated. "That thing could tear through a tank." "Frightened animals are the most dangerous," Hana said. She was watching the Night Stalker's body language carefully now. "On Earth, more people are killed by scared dogs than by aggressive ones." The creature took a step toward them. Its mouth opened again, but this time the sound was different. Less threatening. Almost questioning. Its head tilted to one side, studying them with obvious confusion. All around the chamber, the aliens who remained were hiding behind seats and barriers. None of them were trying to help. They had all given up the humans for dead. In the galaxy's experience, nothing survived a direct encounter with a Night Stalker. In all recorded history, Vorin called out weakly from his hiding place, "No one has ever survived being chosen as a Night Stalker's prey. I am sorry. There is nothing we can do." Taeyang looked at Hana, then at Junho, then back at the creature. "I did not think humanity's first day in galactic society would be our last." But Hana was already moving. Before either man could stop her, she stepped down from the platform. She walked toward the Night Stalker with slow, deliberate steps. Her hands were raised, palms out, in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. "Hana, no." Junyo reached for her, but she was already out of range. The Night Stalker's eyes focused on her instantly. It lowered its massive head, bringing that mouth full of death closer to her level. She could feel the heat radiating from its body. Could smell something like ozone and burnt metal coming from its scales. Could see her own reflection in those glowing eyes. She stopped walking when she was just 10 feet away. Close enough to touch if she was insane enough to try. Close enough to die instantly if this went wrong. "Easy," she said softly. Her voice was calm and gentle, the same tone she used with frightened animals back home. "Easy now. Nobody's going to hurt you." The creature made another sound. This one was softer, almost confused. Its head tilted further, like a dog trying to understand human speech. Hana carefully lowered herself into a crouch, making herself smaller and less threatening. She kept her hands visible and her movements slow. Every gesture was calculated to show she was not a threat. "That's right," she continued in that same gentle voice. "You're scared. I understand. You woke up somewhere strange. Everyone's attacking you. You don't know what's happening." She shifted position slightly, moving to the side rather than directly approaching. A direct approach was always seen as aggressive. Moving at an angle was less threatening. The Night Stalker tracked her movement but did not attack. "Your leg hurts," Hana said, "and those burns on your side. They did that to you, didn't they? The people who put you in that box. They hurt you." The creature lowered its body closer to the ground. It was still massive, still terrifying, but somehow less hostile. Its breathing slowed from the rapid panting of fear to something more normal. Hana took one more step forward, then another. She was now close enough that the creature could kill her with a single swipe. Everyone watching held their breath. The entire galaxy seemed to pause, waiting to see what would happen. She extended her hand slowly toward the creature's massive head. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'm not going to hurt you. I promise." The Night Stalker stared at her hand, then at her face, then back at her hand. For a long moment nothing moved. The universe itself seemed to be holding its breath. Then very slowly the creature leaned its head forward. Hana's fingers made contact with the smooth scales of its snout. They were warm, almost hot and smoother than she expected. She began moving her hand gently, scratching under what she thought might be its jaw. The effect was immediate and shocking. The Night Stalker's eyes half closed. A deep rumbling sound emerged from its chest, but this was completely different from the threatening growl before. This sound was rhythmic, almost musical. It vibrated through the floor and into everyone's bones. It was purring. The galaxy's deadliest predator was purring like a house cat. Hana smiled despite her fear. "There you go," she said softly. "That's better, isn't it? Much better than fighting." Behind her, Taeyang and Junho stood frozen in absolute shock. Around the chamber, aliens slowly emerged from their hiding places, unable to believe what they were seeing. Dr. Hana Park, human xenobiologist, was petting a Night Stalker, and it was enjoying it. The shuttle's engines hummed softly as it approached the massive station floating in space. Inside, Ambassador Taeyang Kim adjusted his formal uniform one more time. His hands were steady, but his mind raced with thoughts about the meeting ahead. This was humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy's most powerful organization. Everything had to go perfectly. "Stop fidgeting," Dr. Hana Park said from the seat beside him. She was younger than Taeyang, maybe 30 years old, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her specialty was studying alien life forms, and she had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. "You look fine." Very diplomatic. Junho Lee snorted from the pilot's seat. As head of security, he had different concerns than looking diplomatic. His job was keeping everyone alive, and he did not like walking into unknown situations. The station ahead was home to dozens of alien species, and humans knew very little about most of them. "Approaching Docking Bay 7, Junho announced. His voice was calm and professional. Years of military training had taught him to never show fear, even when he felt it. The Galactic Council station was enormous. It orbited a planet called Axiom Prime, chosen because no single species claimed it as their home world. The station itself looked like a giant wheel made of crystal and metal, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Thousands of ships came and went every day, carrying representatives from across the galaxy. Their shuttle docked with a soft thud. The 3 humans stood and gathered their equipment. Taeyang carried only a datapad with his prepared speech. Hana had several cases of scientific instruments and samples from Earth. Junho wore his uniform and kept his hand near his weapon, even though he knew it would probably be useless against most alien threats. The airlock opened with a hiss. Beyond it stood 3 alien beings waiting to escort them. The tallest looked like a bird made of metal, with feathers that clinked softly when it moved. The second was transparent, its body glowing with soft blue light. The third looked almost human, except its skin was covered in tiny scales that changed color constantly. "Welcome," the glowing one said. Its voice sounded like music. "I am Vorin, Speaker of the Council. We will take you to the chambers now." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. Other aliens passed them, some curious, others completely ignoring the humans. Hana tried to memorize everything she saw. Each species moved differently, communicated differently, existed differently. It was overwhelming and wonderful at the same time. The council chambers were huge. The ceiling disappeared into darkness far above, and the walls curved in ways that hurt to look at. 12 massive seats formed a circle, each one designed for a different alien body type. Council members were already arriving, taking their places with obvious importance. "You will stand there." Vorin indicated a platform in the center of the circle. "When called upon, Ambassador Kim will present humanity's case for membership. Be honest, we value truth above all else." Taeyang nodded and took his position. Hana and Junho stood slightly behind him as planned. The platform rose slowly, lifting them up so all the council members could see them clearly. The chamber filled quickly. Soon, all 12 seats were occupied by beings that looked like they came from nightmares and dreams. One was made entirely of living crystal. Another looked like a floating collection of tentacles. A third resembled a massive insect with too many eyes. "The Council recognizes Earth. Foreign's musical voice filled the chamber. Ambassador Kim, you may speak. Taeyang began his prepared speech. He talked about humanity's achievements, their desire for peace, their willingness to learn. He admitted Earth's violent history but emphasized how humans had grown beyond their worst impulses. He spoke clearly and confidently, just as he had practiced 1,000 times. But Hana was not listening anymore. Something felt wrong. Several council members kept glancing toward the far corner of the chamber. There was a large container there sealed with glowing energy fields. Her scientific instincts kicked in immediately. She slowly reached into her pocket and pulled out a small scanner. Pointing it casually at the container, she activated it with her thumb. The readings that came back made her freeze. There was something alive inside that container, something big, something that gave off energy readings she had never seen before. Junho, she whispered, we have a problem. The security chief glanced at her scanner without moving his head. His expression did not change, but his posture shifted slightly. He was ready for trouble now. Taeyang was finishing his speech. We ask only for a chance to prove ourselves worthy of joining this great council. We bring new perspectives, new ideas, and a genuine desire for cooperation. The council members began asking questions. Most were reasonable. A few were hostile, suggesting humans were too violent, too primitive, too dangerous. Taeyang handled each question with diplomatic skill, never losing his calm. Then it happened. A young alien near the sealed container, one that looked like an oversized bird, was reaching for some documents on a nearby table. Its wing accidentally brushed against the control panel of the containment field. There was a flash of light and a loud beeping sound. The energy field flickered and disappeared. For one long moment, nothing happened. The council chamber fell absolutely silent. Every being in the room seemed to be holding their breath, including the humans who did not fully understand what was wrong. Then the container's door slowly opened. The thing that emerged moved like liquid shadow. It was massive, easily 12 feet tall when it stood on its hind legs. Its body was covered in scales so black they seemed to absorb light. 6 limbs ending in curved claws scraped against the floor. 3 rows of teeth glittered like broken glass in its enormous mouth. But worst of all were the eyes. They glowed with an inner light like dying stars, and they held an intelligence that was terrifying to see. Someone screamed. Hana did not know which species made the sound, but it did not matter. Panic exploded through the chamber like a bomb. Aliens fled in every direction. Security guards appeared from hidden doors, firing weapons that sparked and flashed. The creature moved through the energy blasts like they were nothing. It killed 2 guards with casual swipes of its claws, moving so fast it was almost impossible to track. Get down, Junho shouted, pushing Taeyang toward the floor. He drew his own weapon, knowing it was probably useless but unable to do nothing. Hana stood frozen, her mind trying to process what she was seeing. This creature should not exist. Its biology made no sense according to everything she knew. Yet it was real, solid, and incredibly deadly. The creature stopped its rampage suddenly. Its glowing eyes swept across the chamber, looking at each alien in turn. Then those terrible eyes locked onto the 3 humans standing on their platform. The creature's body language changed. It lowered itself slightly and began moving toward them with slow, deliberate steps. Every alien in the chamber knew what that meant. The predator had chosen its prey. It was coming for the humans.